All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 21st of June, 2023. Coming up tonight, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. We'll see if it finally ends tonight, and we can put a bow on the 23-24 NHL season. Meanwhile, we creep closer and closer to the NHL Draft, which is coming up on the 28th. And yesterday, Flyers general manager Daniel Brière had a chance to meet with the media to discuss the draft, discuss the offseason, and kind of a little bit of a teaser of what's to come, revealing in some areas and kind of chalking some others, especially when it came to free agency. Some of the things Danny was asked about in that press conference, obviously Matvei Michkov, no update there. So in the conversation that I had with Danny, you're not really going to hear about Matvei Michkov because there's nothing really to discuss. And Danny and I thought had a really good conversation. We do talk about the draft, but we talk a lot about philosophy in rebuilding, philosophy in team building, philosophy in salary cap management, and some very great insight from the general manager in this conversation. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation. We'll sit down. About 25 minutes worth with the Flyers general manager yesterday. Here's my conversation with Daniel Brière. It's a brand new episode of Flyers Daily as we navigate the offseason, brought to you by Ticketmaster, Make More Memories Live. Very happy to be sitting down with the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers, Danny Brière. How's your summer been?
Hey, Jason. It's good. Busy, exciting. Looking forward to the draft next week coming up. There's a lot of exciting stuff.
What's been different this time of year, this year, from last year when it was the first time you were going through this?
Probably a lot more comfortable in the position.
Yeah.
Not worried so much about all the little things, that don't matter as much. Also, there's a lot of changes coming in last year that we had to do as a team and an organization, not just players but staff as well. I think now most of our staff is in place. It's been a much more enjoyable off season, although there's lots going on with trying to meet up with all the players after the season, meet up with all the coaches, come up with a game plan for next season, roster build for the following season, meeting up with your scouting staff on the pro side. You're preparing for the draft at the same time, and then trying to look out at how to improve the team through trades or whatever. So it's been great. It's been busy, but I would say probably a little easier to manage than
because of that
summer.
Infrastructure overhaul.
Yeah, exactly. And just being in a more comfortable, better place,
Yeah.
Understanding how things work a little better than I did when I came in last year.
You look at the a rebuild and where you guys are, and you watch these playoffs, and like I watch the playoffs and round after round. I go, okay, what did I learn that round? But you got to take last year, 23-24, and there's a period of time where you got to dissect and go, what did we learn last year? What did we do good? What did we not do good?
Yep.
Where can we improve? Where can we accentuate and
Yep.
Put more of this? How long does that process go? Are you at that point now where you've turned the page from 23-24 and you're now to 24-25?
We still talk about it. There's a lot to learn from what happened last year, but at the same time, I really think it's a process. What happened last year, especially coming down the stretch, playing some tough environment, tough game, must-win game with such a young crew is going to be good for us. I really believe that down the road, learning how to approach those games. I mean, just look at Florida.
Yeah.
They get to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and Vegas was just more battle tested, knew what needed to be done, and you watched Florida come back this year. It's almost as they learned from last year.
Yeah.
They steamrolled some really good teams in the first 3 rounds. Now I know Edmonton won the last couple games, and really looking forward to Game 6. But it felt like Florida took control of that series, especially early on.
Yeah.
They were much better prepared. So I really feel going through this experience is going to make our young players better down the road.
That's a cumulative effect, right? Of all that, because both of those teams are in the Cup final because of the way they defend. Like you look at Edmonton, you go, McDavid's doing McDavid things, ridiculous, right? But the reason they get through Vancouver is because they lock down and they can defend. All of a sudden, they're a team that can defend. when you're looking at your rebuild, I think there's two flaws. You can build a team that's a wagon in the regular season, goes up and down the ice, but they get to the postseason and they struggle.
Yeah.
You were a guy that had a lot of playoff success as an individual player. Do you look at that and say, I want to build a team that's going to be playoff successful?
Yeah,
we may not be
absolutely.
as flashy, but we can have more playoff success.
Absolutely. And you look at Edmonton. Edmonton, how many years did it, like, they kept losing in the second round for years. It's been tough.
And they had,
to get,
4 or 5 number 1 overall picks in 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, it was tough to break through, and they finally did it this year, and they still have some to learn. But I watch McDavid, and we talk about how good he's been offensively, but
He's defending great.
Yeah, what has impressed me is back checking, playing in the zone. Like he's becoming an all around player. He's been simply impressive, both ends of the ice. So, you talked about myself, the playoff experience, but early on in my career, it wasn't all that rosy. I
You didn't get to the playoffs until 30.
30. Well, I did play some games in Phoenix. I played one round, and I was lost. I didn't know how to approach a playoff round or even a playoff game. So you learn along the way. Experience is critical. And you're right. We're trying to build a team that's going to be a Stanley Cup contender. It's not about, like you said, having the flashiest team in the regular season. But it's a fine line. It's not easy to toy with that line of having enough talent and skill, but also some grit to be able to play, because it's a grind. You watch you watch
amazing.
The playoffs. It's a grind, and these guys that are still playing now, it's been 2 months that they're grinding away every other day. And
every inch is contested for.
Exactly. So you need special type of people to be able to do that, and special leaders to be able to lead to get your team through that.
And it's not just talent. Because I remember watching an interview with Gretzky, and he said in '84, they were walking out of the rink and they walked by the Islanders' room.
Yep.
And he saw how they looked.
Yep.
That's what we got to do.
Broken and ice bags, and these guys are. His team was walking
fourth
away.
cup in a row, and they're walking out no limp.
Yeah, I remember that quote. I remember reading that part in
when he
in
says
his
it,
book.
it's got a little impact.
Exactly. And then, if someone knows, it's him. So, I do believe there's a lot to that.
A lot of sacrifice that has to take place. All the teams are built considerably different in the Final Four teams this year. You got to be malleable in how you go through this rebuild. Take things as they come, eyes wide open, but you also have to have your areas of prudency.
Yep.
And that's something I think that maybe you guys are practicing this year when it comes to free agency.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun to get back in the game, go shopping, but you got to go, okay, I got to remain diligent.
I think we all want to do it. We all want to have that extra money and go spend it.
Let's go get Reinhardt. He scored 50, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The good thing is we don't have that luxury because we don't have the money this summer. It's just reality. And we knew that. We knew that along the way. There's contracts that we traded for that put us in that position. We have a lot of dead cap money at this point, so it's going to control our spending. But I think it's a good thing. We're still far away. We still want to let our young guys play and develop. So we're still at that timeline of still in the rebuild, still giving our young guys the opportunity to develop either here with the Flyers or in the minors. We have some really critical drafts. We had one last year, 2 more this year, next summer coming, with a lot of draft capital that we have to use to our advantage. So we're not there. We're still too young to spend almost at this point.
You get to that point when you're supposed to get to that point. Let me ask you about, were you a puzzle guy growing up? Like, could you look down at a puzzle and put it together? I suck at puzzles. I see that and the box is there. I can't do it.
I love that.
For you, as a GM, you have this puzzle, and people go, well, the puzzle's just on the ice. Make a good team. That's not the case. There's the element of the puzzle of building a roster on the ice, building a culture and standard off the ice, and then there's the fiscal puzzle, which is making it all work. And a lot of times we look at, we go look at your cap and go, well, this is your cap now.
Yep.
But you got to look at, okay, another year from now, Cam York's coming up. Terrence Konechny is going to be an unrestricted free agent. You have ARB-eligible restricted free agents here. You have these different money coming off, money coming in. You got
That's my job.
It's piecing all that together. I'm overwhelmed.
That's my job and that's what I love. I love doing that, and we have some really good people around, starting with Barry Hanrahan. Our analytics group is really helpful. Tom Minton as well.
So that's for a projection of, if this guy goes here, this is what he's going to have to earn, that kind of thing.
Correct. We make projections all the time, and we adjust along the way, depending on what happens. With, and a good example of that is Owen Tippett last year. Kind of exploded, and we had to change the projection on him, which is a good thing at the same time. It means he's taken another level. But yeah, that's the stuff that I love doing. We try to
really dig into that.
Yeah, and knowing how much is coming off the cap, how many contracts and how much money will be leaving the cap next year and the following year. So we tried to get ahead. I mean, we make plans up to 10 year ahead, which I get a 10 year, especially in hockey, where it changes on a daily basis is a little ridiculous, but
you almost have to.
3-5 years for sure. You need to have a plan in place.
I think you got to map out looking all the way up to Oliver Bonk's unrestricted free agency. That's kind of like the line I look at.
Absolutely, and how what kind of contracts you sign him to, where and when do you want him to buy into free agency?
There's marker boards and
exactly.
he hits. It's really fascinating because so often fans, we see the guys on the ice for 2 hours and 45 minutes on game day 82 times a year.
And that's what we want. We want the fans to come in and enjoy the game and the players and not have to worry about the contracts.
You saw it last year, Danny. Let's talk about the culture around the team. A new regime comes in, led by Dan Hilferty, yourself, and Keith Jones. And I've talked about it on the pod, the vibe around here as an employee. And I've been with the team a long time. Like when you first got here as a free agent, is far different and very similar to where it was many years ago.
Well, it's good to hear. But yeah, you're right. It starts with Dan Hilferty. His leadership is infectious. Is a great word. He's fun to be around. Everybody loves him. He's one of those person that everybody wants to work for and with, because he's in there too. He loves to be involved, and it's fun to have him around. The relationship he's created with the staff, the coaches, the players even, is pretty cool and wild to see. So we're fortunate. I know I feel very fortunate to still be in the Flyers organization and to have people like Dan Hilferty and Keith Jones to work for.
Sometimes having the boss that wants to be involved can be a hindrance. But Dan goes in eyes wide open, doesn't pretend to know what he doesn't know. That's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, he's fabulous when it comes to that. He has really good insights. His leadership, the way he leads is amazing, and that's where he's been really helpful. He brought in one of the things I'm probably most proud of, the way we do things, is how collaborative we are. All the departments working together, even downstairs, how the strength coach and athletic trainer and even our player development with our trainers are all working in sync to make everything work smoothly. Same thing with our analytics group, with our mixing in with our scouts and the higher management. So it's been awesome, but all of that really is led by Dan Hilferty.
Success in the NHL is very difficult. Pulling the rope is hard. If you have everybody pulling in the same direction, it does ease that a little bit.
Definitely.
Philosophically, from a rebuild standpoint, and you guys are in a rebuild, and you've talked about it, the players will determine, pace of rebuild and marker boards that you'll hit. But you have some decisions to make, too, in a rebuild. And one of those is Travis Konechny, who will be eligible for a new contract coming up on July 1st as he goes into the final year of his bridge deal. How do you approach that? Because I think there's a lot of elements to it. This is a drafted and developed player here, never played in the AHL here, came right from junior, has matured on and off the ice so significantally. I think wants to be an infectious guy, to talk about Dan. And it also sends a signal around the NHL on how this is handled. So how do you tackle this?
Yeah, and like you said, he wants to be here. He's typical Flyer.
That's box number one, right?
he's got a lot of things that you look for, in a player, but it also has to make sense, contract wise. But he's become a leader on this team. It's all the credit is to him. His development curve is it hasn't been straight up. There's been some bumps along the way, but every time he seems to come out of it even stronger. He takes good care of himself. So there's a lot. He's a good player. We'd like to have him come back for the rest of his career, but at the same time, it has to make sense. There's a lot into it, and we're evaluating all that. And after July 1st, we'll test the water with him and mostly his agent, and see if we can kind of come up to something that works for everybody,
fair all around.
Exactly. And then we're not trying to take advantage of him, and knowing Travis, he's not trying to take advantage of him. He wants something that's fair, and hopefully we can find a way to come to an agreement.
How does the general manager navigate it when you see rumors all over the place? Like, you're not oblivious, you're savvy, you can go on social media and see the stuff like, he's looking for 10 million. Well, so am I.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
But he's looking for 10 million. Like, I always say to people, like, careful. This information comes with an agenda. It's silly season. Like, numbers get thrown around. Like, when you see some stuff, are you just like, this deal is going to happen, and you're like, I didn't even talk to this dude.
So I have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And
you're used to it as from being a player too.
Exactly, and that helps. But you just see it with the rumors, with different teams sometimes, but sometimes they do get one right, so you have to be in the know. But yeah, I try not to get lost in that. I try to be careful with what's thrown out there, because a lot of the time it's someone that has no idea, and he's just thrown something out, and people react to it. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, like a career 200 hitter, you go up enough times, and you're going to get something. The thing is too is, you've been able to operate clandestinely. I've kind of in the shadows as a GM, and that's difficult in a market like this. A lot of people are always poking and prodding around and looking for information. You pull the Gauthier deal off, the Michkov thing last year. I mean, he's in this place last year before the draft. Nobody knew. Being able to operate like that and batten down the hatches, I think, is very important to success as a GM.
Yeah.
And I think the big part about it, Danny, is the guys that you're dealing with have to have the respect for you and that privacy of the conversations you're having. To me, it says a lot. What does it mean to be able to operate that way?
Well, it's all about your staff, right? It's the people that you trust around you. And so, and it means a lot. To be able to do that, it makes it a lot easier. Also, the other GMs calling you are a lot more comfortable talking to you, so it goes a long way. If you don't have that, you miss out on a lot lot of key information.
If the GM's like, every time I call this guy, it ends up out there. Like, he's not going to call you very much.
He's not going to say exactly. So you need really good staff. So kudos to the people around me that are being shared the critical, very sensitive information. And again, it's collaborative. We're all working together. So it means a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Shawn Walker is doing something that you did. And I think, first of all, you made Shawn Walker a lot of money. You took him from being a household name and put him out there, and he's going to make a lot of money this offseason. And he is a guy that's out there selling your message. He came to Philadelphia, had a lot of success under Torts, and you flipped him into a first-round pick. He's going to get paid, but he's also a guy that's going to talk about his experience here. When you went to other places, do players have those conversations?
Absolutely.
What was it like in Philly?
Absolutely.
Like, he's your best salesman. One of them out there right now, isn't he?
And look, he
was awesome.
Tremendous. He was awesome. He's a big part of the reason why we were where we were when we traded him.
Yeah.
We wish we had enough money to find a way to bring him back. The
just
leadership,
doesn't align.
No, right now the timeline, his age, and spending the money, but we like everything about him as
great
a player.
Messenger for you.
So lots of respect. We're happy for him. We were really happy to give him a chance at a Stanley Cup, and we wish him the best. And I hope he, and he deserves to make and sign a big contract.
Yeah.
He's played a lot of years. He's gone through a lot in his career. So it's one of those guys that I'm really happy, and whatever he's going to sign for, I'm going to be really excited for him.
He had a great experience on the ice and off
I hope
the
he
ice.
did. I hope he did, because for us, he was a great asset, and he helped us grow and take this team to a different level.
Yeah, big time under the radar move from last summer. Garnet Hathaway, I've talked to you about him before, having him a part of this. Last thing, the draft. We're kind of getting to the draft now, but you have this draft coming up. You're at 12. There might be opportunity to move up. There might be opportunity to move back. Might stay where you are.
Yeah.
Probably going to have 32 because I think Florida's going to win. But you look at this draft and sometimes you go, well, drafting 12th, it's such a precarious spot. This is actually one of those drafts where being in that spot's kind of an interesting place to be.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing at all this year. You might
Some years it could be. Ugh.
Yeah, you know what the players that you're going to fall in. I think after 4 or 5, it's wide open. It can go in so many different directions this year. We're in a really good spot. We like our spot. We're looking at all avenues to even move up or move back, depending on who's available around a certain range. So it's definitely an exciting draft for us, and we feel we'll be able to get a really good player in at 12.
Yeah, you can get some impact there. It may not be impact 3 months from now.
No,
but
it's going to take a while.
Yeah, that's you got to caution people sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what's tough sometimes with the NHL is, other than this year the first pick, but on most year the first 2 or 3 guys, you have to be patient with
and
the
develop.
rest of the players. It's all about development and how they are developing. Most players are not impact players until 3, 4, 5 years down the road after their draft year.
I would point specifically to Cam York.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that
Great
draft.
example.
I mean, the value you got out of him at $1.6 million last year, and you're going to get out of him this year. I mean, come on.
It's amazing.
He stunned me.
His development has been just unreal. Coming in, and we've seen him grow right in front of our eyes.
Yep.
Torts has been tough on him. The character that he's shown working through that. He wasn't happy when we sent him down 2 years ago at training camp. He played about 3 months in the minors. I know he wasn't happy, but he went. He did the work. He put in the work.
Yeah, Lappy said, "Show me."
and he came back, and he just got better and better. And then last year took a huge step forward for us. Tyson Forster is another example, and those guys have invested heavily into their development as far as taking care of themselves off the ice, and that's where it starts. So those are 2 really good examples for our young guys to watch, a forward and a defenseman that are killing now in the NHL and put in the time to get there.
Yeah, the reward is there for sure. Danny, thanks for doing this. Best of luck with the draft, free agency, and everything to come. Enjoy the summer when you can. I know you don't get the time off like you did as a player to kind of recharge.
Okay. I'm having so much fun. I don't mind it at all.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Jason.
Great to catch up with Danny Brière in advance of the 2024 NHL draft. Just around the corner, free agency just beyond that. And Flyers have been out there and mentioned in a lot of rumors. I see people on social media getting a little crazy with it. And, Danny and I talked about that. When you see that kind of stuff that's not based in any reality, it comes with the turf. He dealt with it as a player as well. But really revealing conversation with Danny Brière. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be back Monday. Bill Meltzer will join us. We'll start to tee up the draft. We'll start to also, we'll kind of finish up our 10 things we learned in 23-24 so we can put a bow on this season, toss it aside, and start focusing on 24-25 exclusively. It's about that time of the offseason for the Flyers and the summer. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday on a brand new Flyers Daily.